Flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Terry's Moon, Flight boss, the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now we're going to talk about Saturn going into Capricorn for all my Scorpio ascendants. Now, for all my Scorpio ascendants, you need to understand this. Saturn works like a big-ass bulldozer. So it's going to come in and just knock down the motherfucking house that it's getting ready to go into. And since Saturn is going into Capricorn, 9 times out of 10, Saturn is getting ready to knock down your third house. Now, you know, based upon degrees and the measuring of time and degrees and things of that nature, you may have Saturn still lingering around your second house. But for the most part, it didn't already tore this down and rebuilt it. So you already kind of then gain stability in your life when it comes to this area of life. And if you have it, yet, then you're going to experience even more withdrawals when it get into the third house fully. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, you know, as far as the Saturn being in the second house, at this point, you're cleaning up, sweeping the floor, you know what I'm saying, throwing the trash out, wiping down the windows and this, that, and the third. So, you know, keep that in mind. Now, for the most part, when we talk about the third house, what is the third house? What you're familiar with. So, you know, what you're familiar with and your surroundings. Majority, your surroundings. So it's like, your neighborhood, your room, your maybe close friends, anything that's in your close proximity, all kind of short distance travels. You know what I'm saying? Brothers, sisters, mother, father, you know, this, like anything that's in a close proximity, your friends, like your best friends and things of that nature. And third house, this is your surroundings and anything you're familiar with, whether that's a person, place, or thing, gift, talent, trade, something you have learned. As long as it's not something new, it's something you're familiar with and you used to it, it's stepping into your familiarity, brain mechanism, then that correlates to third house. And all those energetic forces is what built the third house. And what happens here when Saturn comes here? Boom, knock all that down. So you're gonna find yourself having to restructure your surroundings. You may even get kicked out or having to relocate in some way, shape, or form. It even plays out in ways as you having to reconstruct your surroundings in some type of way, redecorate or reformulate or regroup or reassociate yourself with a different crowd of people or something going on in your surroundings that Saturn is going to tear down. And I'm going to explain how it's going to do that. It's also going to tear down everything that you've been familiar with. So obviously Saturn is coming into a Scorpio ascendant life to get them to break away from something, break away from things that they was familiar with, like make it kind of like throwing a bird, a baby bird off the nest and making it learn how to fly on its own. So that's the kind of energetic force that Saturn going into Capricorn going to give all Scorpio ascendants. Now when we want to talk about, for the most part, now Saturn is going to knock that down. It's going to knock down everything you've been familiar with. So it's going to throw you in some uncomfortable situations, some situations that's unfamiliar, and it's going to force you to learn to get familiar with it. And also Saturn brings reality. So it's going to make you see the reality of your surroundings. It's going to make you see the reality of everything you're familiar with. And showing you the reality of it. Like, should I let this go and it's not working anymore? And should I learn something else to get familiar with? You know what I'm saying? So that's the kind of energetic force it's kind of giving you. Now Saturn is the planet of reality, so it brings reality in your life. It also is how one gains structure in their life, based upon a person, place, or thing, or job, or whatever. The cobalt minds. You see what I'm saying? Saturn controlling the time and being all serious and all evil. Like, that's another video. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, Saturn. You know, from an astrologer perspective, we don't add any religious annotations to things. We just know that there's beings higher than others and beings lower than others, and we understand concepts and diversities and things of that nature. So do not be scared of Saturn. Now, but for the most part, it's here as like a grandfather. It's here to teach you, but teach you in a hard way. So you know what I'm saying? It's like it's that parent that don't shelter their children. So for the most part, you know, Saturn being in the third house is going to make you see the reality of all things you're familiar with, and force you to see the reality of like your surroundings, and it's going to tear it down in order for you to regain or relearn how to gain structure in your life based upon the new things you're going to learn by this being torn down. Now, so obviously also, now this is a sextile from your ascendant. The third house is automatically a sextile. So this is like kind of, the sextiles and trines are negative when it comes to the houses. They're positive when it comes to the planet alignments, and the oppositions and the squares may be negative when it comes to the planet alignments. But when it comes to the ascendant, the squares and the oppositions are more positive, and the sextiles and the trines are more negative, because sextiles and trines can play out as procrastination and not actually fully doing these things, because you already have natural abilities to doing these things, as opposed to the ascendant represents your areas of life. So you're supposed to learn in life, so that's why the square is positive. Opposition, you have to relate your own personal life to other people's personal world to live in this world. Boom, that's opposition. So oppositions and squares, these things are positive when it comes into the houses. Now, so as far as you having this as a sextile with your ascendant, what's happening here is you're always going to experience opportunities to align your personality, personal issues, and affairs with your surroundings and what's familiar to you, but in a structural way, in a practical way, in a way that makes sense, in a way that's reality based. You see what I'm saying? Now, you're always going to experience these opportunities. Now, whether you take these opportunities or not is a different story. And people who don't even know themselves or know their natal alignment, and they don't, or even know their energies or know what's going on, these people bypass opportunities every day. So, you know, it's going to create opportunities. You just got to not procrastinate and see them and take on it. And you know what I'm saying? So you're going to experience opportunities in some way, shape, or form to apply your surroundings and what's familiar to you, to your personal issues, personal affairs, and personality. And then vice versa. Your personality is going to witness opportunities to be applied to your surroundings and what's familiar to you. So therefore, if you got a gift or a talent, you do it with charismatic personality and things of that nature. But you may be stubborn to the fact, since you're a Scorpio ascendant, you may be stubborn to the fact to expressing yourself in certain ways when the time is right. And then you may, the times that you may feel like, if I express myself, I'll be vulnerable, that might be the time that you need to express yourself to get you from point A to point B. So you see that, you see how you will procrastinate, but these are opportunities that you're going to see opportunities to take, but taking them make you feel out of place. You see how like sextiles and trines, I don't really fuck with sextiles and trines in the houses, but you know, everything has a gift and a curse. But for the most part, you know, yeah, your whole third house is going to have to get restructured and things of that nature. So for you to experience, well, for you not to experience a storm coming, and for you to not have a roof, so for you and everybody in your house to get all soaking wet, you know what I'm saying, for you to hurry up and build this house a lot faster and quicker, you're going to have to utilize the opposite houses and the square houses. And these are the tools that you have in order to build your third house a lot faster, so you don't have to get soaked when a storm comes. You don't have to be like, damn, I ain't got no roof here, like aka witness a bunch of stumbles and falls in this houses, because Saturn already tore down your original way of gaining structure in your life about this way. Now Saturn coming into the third house, you got to develop a whole new way of gaining construct around your third house, which is your surroundings and what's familiar to you. So let's start off with the opposition. Now the opposite house to the third house will be the ninth house. Now the ninth house is higher learning, higher education, you know, meanings and reasonings that you put onto things, your wisdom and knowledge, and your broad philosophical points of views of looking at the world, spirituality, and God. So ultimately it causes expansion, and it's your house of experiences. Everything's an experience. So, in the ninth house right here, opposite in the third house, is automatically causing friction. It's automatically a tug-of-war match. So it's your duty to make this a give and receive match. And the better you know how to do this, the better your house get built in the third house. Now here's what happened. Here's what's going on, why it's causing friction, right? You may be going through you're going to be going through certain circumstances and situations where you can't seem to coincide you traveling or traveling within the mind and having far out thoughts, or you traveling physically, externally in certain ways, or you having your experiences, your wisdom and knowledge, your meanings of reasoning to things. It's going to be hard for you to correlate that with your surroundings in some way, with your friends, with your relatives, with the things that you're familiar with. It's going to be hard to apply what you have learned and gained wisdom from to the things that you are familiar with. You may even witness a clash and breakdown of things that you are familiar with as far as spiritualities and what you have learned and things of that nature. Now you may witness a breakdown of these things, to the point that now what you are familiar with is different than the things you are learning now. and the things you are experiencing now. And you are gaining higher meaning and reasonings to things of that nature. So you may get a breakdown into that worldview and things. So these are clashing. So to make this a given, maybe a changing of outlooks between you and close people and things, it's just a lot of things can happen with this placement right here. With you Scorpio ascendants, like a lot of mysticism, no matter what house is going on. So to make this a give and receive match, other than a tug of war match, sometimes you may have to set aside your sometimes you may have to set aside how you are in your surroundings and the things you are familiar with, for the sake of what other people have experienced and their meanings and reasonings and their wisdom and knowledge and their broad philosophical points of views of the world, spirituality and God and astrology and science and mysticism and occultism and things of that nature. You may have to set aside what you're familiar with for the sake of other, and then vice versa. You may have to set your wisdom and meanings and reasonings and your experiences and your ability to preach or teach or whatever, you may have to set to someone else and give somebody else wisdom. You may have to set that aside for the sake of your surroundings, knowing what kind of energetic forces is going on in your surroundings, knowing how many robots or vampires you have in your surroundings. You know what I'm saying? You may have to set all your wisdom and knowledge aside for the sake of, people may not be enlightened, or maybe people are enlightened in your surroundings in some way, shape, or form. Or you may have to set what you're learning aside from what you're familiar with, so things don't get messed up based upon you might got things going on, like a job or something going on from the things that you're familiar with, but at the same time you're in a situation where you're learning new shit, but if you was to apply it or add it to what you're doing and what you're familiar with, it may fuck things up. So it's a lot of dynamics going on with you Scorpio ascendants with this Saturn going into Capricorn. So that's the best way. So to make it a give and receive match, you're gonna have to set aside but don't do that too much. Don't set aside your surroundings and what you're familiar with too much. Don't dive too far on that end, because that's what's causing the friction in the first place. Now we're gonna get to the squares. Now the squares to the third house will be the 12th and the 6th. So let's start with the 6th house. Now the 6th house. Now the square is a learning process. So what is the 6th house? Work, your job or whatever you're working on, health, routine, scheduling, day-to-day tasks, things you do on a day-to-day basis, your ability to criticize yourself and others or things or locations, and your ability to look at the details of things. So for the most part, when we talk about the 6th house, you need to learn how to apply these things to the third house. The more you apply criticizing, maybe you have to learn how to start being more critical to your surroundings and what you're familiar with. Start criticizing the people you are around a little bit more. Start being more critical and looking at the details of the things you're familiar with in your surroundings. You may have to apply more of a schedule, more routine basis for this. Work on these things. Work on something in your surroundings. Have something to work on in your surroundings. Have this kind of ability where you are learning how to apply 6th house nature to the third house, and that's going to help build the third house a lot faster. Also, let's get to the other square, your other tool, the 12th house. Now the 12th house is your dreams, illusions, creativity, and imagination, and fantasy realm, and things that you're subconsciously comfortable with doing. Those things in your mind that you be like, I can't wait till I get here and do this. I can't wait till I go home and do this. You know what I'm saying? That's your subconscious realm. So the more you take this realm, your dreams, illusions, fantasies, creativity, imaginations, and things of that nature, and apply it to your surroundings in some type of way, your spiritual inclinations, apply it to your surroundings in some type of way, and what's familiar. Now this may clash, because the 9th and the 12th house are Jupiter houses. So it may clash because the 9th house is the opposite house. So where the 9th house may try to say relax on spiritual inclinations in your surroundings, the 12th house may try to say apply it. But the 12th house is more of a collective conscious, which all mutable signs are. But the 12th house is collective conscious emotionally. So if you're going to apply your spirituality, learn how to do it relatable on a collective conscious that everybody can relate to, instead of doing it in a 9th house way, where just expressing what you have learned and what you have gained wisdom from, whether it's right or wrong, and trying to relate it in an expressive way. Try to relate it in an emotional way, therefore it can connect whether it's right or wrong. So that's the slight difference between Pisces and Sag. You see what I'm saying? Pisces and Sag, they do the same thing, but Pisces may do it in an emotional way, and Sagittarius may do it in a feeling, expressive type way. So you could kind of correlate how those go in different areas sometimes. But for the most part, yeah, utilize your dreams, illusions, creativity, imagination, spirituality realm, and fantasy realm, and how you connect with the collective conscious, and utilize this in your surroundings in some type of way. For the most part, that's like if you got a friend or somebody in your surroundings, don't be so quick to blame them. Kind of start understanding the collective conscious of it, the spirit that they may be carrying, and you may be able to help them on a higher level than they may not be able to perceive. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, Scorpios, y'all got a lot of work to do as far as Scorpio ascendants. Now that's Saturn going in Capricorn for my motherfucking Scorpio ascendants. Flight boss, bitch, goddamn air.